Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I am your host, Alex Golden. Joining me once again, it is my good friend, Michael J. Facci, the president of the Jermaine O'Neal fan club. I'm giving it back to you because we are here. It is Christmas time, and it's been a rough year for you. So we've been talking off air about some stuff that's going on personally in our lives, and we're just like, man, we've been getting hit with the
taking on the chin
stick, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Hey, life is hard, but that it is for everyone. We go through the ups and downs and this and that. And life is kind of looking like this team right now. You know, it's a little bit more L's than dubs. But you know what? It's a long season, a.k.a. we got a lot of life to live. So let's just keep it rolling out. Alex, tell everyone what we got going on today.
Yeah, everybody, we have got the beginning of our December mailbag. We actually asked for your questions on Sunday. I gathered about, I don't remember, like 21 questions by the afternoon on Sunday. So if anything came in later, we did not get to it. Maybe we will revisit those questions later in the month. But we're going to start things off here with part one of the mailbag. And we've got about 7 questions to answer for you, Facci. So do you want to do the odds or the evens?
I'll go with the odds.
Okay, right. Kick us off then.
All right. Geoff Ferrer said, I look forward to hearing the episode. What do you think is the best choice? Trade our draft pick in 2026 or use the draft pick? I feel like the team is in such a obvious win now mode that draft and develop isn't the best option. Low hanging fruit, I know, but I'm curious.
It's not very often that you have an opportunity to have this high of a pick when you are on a championship level type of run. So it's a weird situation. I've seen Bob Kravitz actually reference the San Antonio Spurs the year that they got Tim Duncan in the draft. I don't know if there's a Tim Duncan in this draft, but who knows? What if the Pacers win the lottery? What if they can get a guy like Cam Boozer, who has been putting up, just ridiculously like God level numbers for Duke, and pair him with Tyrese Halliburton for the next decade? I understand that this team is now in win now mode, but they're not going to trade this pick until the lottery is established, in my personal opinion. Unless there is somebody out there that is just like otherworldly they can get to trade for, that is the only way I see it. But like, I kind of went through this exercise with Simba last week where I like started listing off names like, would you trade the pick for this? And pretty much it was like Evan Mobley and Giannis. Like that is like the extent of that. And even I'm not sure if I would trade this pick for Evan Mobley. So
if it's a top 2 pick, I don't know if you do. Just because it feels like, I don't know, you start to run in that whole like, all right, well, I think Mobley's already paid. It's just like you start to already see like he's good, but there's always that mystery box. Like, boy, he's good, but what if Cam Boozer's great? Like, what if he's like the best, one of the best players in the league at any point? So there's always that like, So I hear you on that. It's Giannis, absolutely. Mobley, most likely, probably, but a little bit of doubt. And then other than that, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, and like everybody knows, like your pick is always more valuable until the pick is actually made.
Of course.
But like, for example, like you can say that, but then all of a sudden, like if the Pacers were to like win the draft lottery when Wemby was in the draft, like Wemby obviously would have more of a value than the pick itself, but like they would probably have the same level of value. It's like the unknown is always greater than the known. It's just how it is a lot of times in sports. But for me, it's like, I really think at this point, you talk about like a good point here. You can't develop them as fast as you're trying to win, but it also depends on what position you get, because we've seen guys come in this league on rookie deals, like, and make an impact as a rookie. Like early on in the season, it's a small sample size, but like what Con Knippel is doing for the Charlotte Hornets, like he looks like he belongs out there on the court.
Great.
And Benedict Mathurin, his rookie season was a flamethrower. Paolo Banchero was really good his rookie year. Wemby obviously was pretty good his rookie year, but still had some lumps to take. And like you're gonna get these guys at their like rawest spot. But I think also just like don't overthink it sometimes. This is one of those simple ones where it's like you can't worry about that. The only one that might make sense is if you fall to like 6 or 7, Fletch, in the draft lottery, and you like maybe want to like invest in a center. And maybe you can trade back a few spots and get a center in the draft and kind of develop them. That could make some sense, but I'm not wanting to do that.
Yeah, I think it very much depends on the pick. If it's top 3, no brainer, you gotta keep it. That could be a franchise changing player. Like let's think about some of these top 3 picks. Just a couple names: Can't say that we're getting these type of guys, but just LeBron, KD, Tatum, Wemby, Jaylen Brown, Embiid. All of those guys were a mixture of top 3 picks. Those are game changers. Those are MVP-esque type players, definite all NBA players. Like, they make a big difference. If the pick is, say, 5th overall, I did the math. I looked at the last 20 drafts. There's only been 5 All-Stars from the 5th overall pick in the last 20 drafts. Man,
Kind of crazy.
That's a 20% hit rate. That's like really, I mean, just really just not good. And when you're talking about like Trae Young is one of those guys. Like, so it's like, oh, all right, well, okay, like, you know, sure. And there's like a DeMarcus Cousins in there, and like, yeah, so Cousins had a good run for a while, but like it just felt like it was a bunch of guys. Like De'Aaron Fox was in that group. Fox is a one-time All-Star. Trae Young is an All-Star, but like, so like you're really even like it's getting watered down. So like in the NBA, it's really all about a top 3 pick. Mm-hmm. So I think if you have that, don't make a move unless it's obviously like trading for one of the best players in the league. But I think that Indiana wants to maximize Halliburton's championship window. You know, KP is scratching on the neck, itching for a move. But I just think at this point, like, I think you're already saying like, okay, well, if it's someone who can be under cost control, that's a really good player that we could have for years. I think that makes a lot of sense because there is a lot of good talent. Everyone's going to say this in December in this draft coming up. Like, I do feel like there's the right guy, but like I looked at it from a center standpoint, and sadly there isn't like that top 5 center or anything of the group. So like, that complicates things, but there's enough talent to be able to say draft that player. You could trade other players on this Pacers team, but I think Indiana's more likely to keep the pick if it's top 3. Top 5 are out of it. I'm fine with you trading.
You have to go all the way back, Facci, to when DeAndre Ayton was the 1st overall pick to see the team that had the worst lottery odds win the draft lottery. So that's, I believe, what was that, 2018, 2016? Was it 20, 25, 24, 23? I'm trying to think here. I think it was 2018 when that happened. So you're talking almost like 7-8 years ago since the number one, like the worst record actually got the draft pick. So it's like anybody thinking the Pacers losing, like, you know, or winning a couple of these games and not having the worst record is a big deal. Like, it's because like this thing is a crazy crapshoot. And it's like a lot of times, like the year at, like in 2019, the Pelicans jumped up with a 6% chance of winning to get Zion. The Grizzlies also had the same percentages at 6%, and they jumped up to 2%. The Knicks had the worst record in the NBA that year. They fell to 3%.
I mean,
and like
the Pistons picked the worst record, like almost like 3 years in a row. They picked 5th 3 years in a row.
Yeah, it was after they won the draft lottery, right? They finished 5th 3 straight years in a row. And they had top 3 percentage of what, 14%.
I mean, the Mavs, that was some shady business. I don't know about that, but at the same point, the Mavs came out of nowhere and got the number 1 picks. So you never know what's going to happen. But I do think that like when you're looking at this roster and you see Benedict Mathurin, 6th overall pick, very good player. Like, you're still like, okay, like he might not be like, all right, this is a guaranteed all-star, all-NBA type player, but he's a very talented player. Then you look at Jarris Walker, who's picked 8th overall, and you're like still scratching your head. It just shows that like, man, anything outside of the top 5, you really don't know what you're going to get. It really is a crapshoot. And I think that Indiana would be smart to say, like, Halliburton's coming back. You already have a lot of talent. Like, if you can leverage that pick in a consolidation trade, you could probably get someone really good, but it would be crazy to trade like the 3rd overall pick when you haven't picked that high since Rick Smits in 88. Like, you just haven't had that high of a draft pick. So I think that would be too bold of a move.
Yeah, and shout out Rick Smits, by the way. I saw this on our Instagram, but it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. He was he had his son, I believe, had their first child. So that was his first grandchild. Nice. So about a month ago, Rick Smits, shout out to him, became a grandpa for the first time, and Reggie Miller was giving him congratulations. But this is a loaded question, and I guarantee you, like, we're gonna have different scenarios as we get closer to the draft, as we get closer to the lottery, and maybe even the trade deadline, like where we come up with like segments. So like for the mailbag, this is where we're at now, but maybe things will change based on names we hear that could become available. So let's move on to the second question that Geoff has here. He said, at what point do we stick with a rotation of players for development purposes and disregard the win-loss column? I know continuity has been the biggest issue this year. Don't we need to get the younger guys into consistent roles to adequately assess their fit for this team next year?
I think we're still too injured to really have that many options. Like we talked about it, last episode, like Cam Jones still isn't ready to hit the court. Quentin Jackson still isn't ready to hit the court. We just got Furphy back. He missed, a lot of time. I feel like we're just over a fourth of the season for the most part through, and still got about 3/4 left. And you look at like Rick's just not going to be, throwing games. Like this is a Hall of Fame coach with players that are used to winning, that I feel like try telling Pascal Siakam to, man, whatever, it's just a game. Like he's going to go out there and compete. So I feel like there's still a lot of talent on this team to win the random games here and there, like, beating Chicago twice or beating Golden State, or they'll have some wins that they're probably not expecting to have. But like, I just don't see Indiana just like bottoming out and being like the worst team, just prioritizing, development, because they don't have a lot of like draft picks that they're trying to get playing time for. It's Cam Jones, who hasn't played a single game, and then Talon Peter was your other draft pick. You have like your two-way guys now. It's the rest are guys that are, there's like Tony Bradley, who's not expected to be here long term. JRE, like, Ben Shepherd, like there's a lot of guys that are like, okay, all right. Like, I'm sorry to even lump Shepherd in with that group. I'm not trying to do that, but I just feel like there's not a lot of young guys that are at the end of the bench that aren't playing. You look at this roster, just about everybody's playing because they have to. It's just, not so pretty.
Like we've deemed it, it's the LOO. It's the land of opportunity for the Pacers, right? And it's. I get what you're saying. Like we do want to see them develop in the role they're more than likely going to play, but that means you're going to still have to play. Matherin's definitely playing in a role that he probably won't be in next year with Halliburton back. So are you really getting to see what he looks like? Do you say, oh, well, we think, Matherin's our super six man or Nesmith's our super six man. Do we bench one of them and start somebody random just so they can get into that role? Like, it's not as easy as just like, oh, you got to develop and see what they have. But to me, it's a matter of like playing hard, Facci, and just doing what you're asked to do. Like that to me will tell you if you can fit in the system. But like, we need to get guys like Furphy more playing time, more acclimated. I get all that. Jarris has had plenty of playing time. Shepherd's had plenty of playing time. You got to just keep doing it. But until you're fully healthy, like you're not going to really know. And like with no Obi and no Tyrese, and at least for the majority of this season, you're going to still be kind of like at a small sample size. So this is where I think you kind of almost experiment instead of doing a constant rotation or a rotation of continuity. I think you maybe experiment a little bit more and say, I want to see what Jarris looks like at the 4. I want to see how Jarris and Pascal play together as a 4-5 and go small. Like just throw all these different combinations out there to kind of see if anything sticks and see what was working with that group and what wasn't, because that's where I think this is more of the LOO, land of opportunity. But I do understand what you're saying. It's just they do need to, like, I think they've kind of not disregarded the win-loss column, but I don't think they're overly concerned about the win-loss column as we speak now because of how rough this season's gone.
Yeah, I don't think there's hell-bent on we're going to do everything possible to get back to the NBA Finals this year. I think it's like, all right, you know what? Like, let's take this one game at a time type of thing. Like, health, hey, we're not going to throw guys out there that are at risk or that are hurt. Like, we're going to play with what we got, and they'll make the most of it. But like, I just feel like, they're not ready to throw in the towel and be Pascal Siakam, we're shutting you down or anything like that. Like it's just not going to happen. But there's also not a lot of guys that are at the end of the bench that were saying, why doesn't this guy get in? Like that is not the case this year. And that's what makes it a little bit tricky because, like I said, all those guys are playing. But Next question we got, Alexandre Mendes said, considering the 2026-2027 season, what piece is missing from this Pacers roster? Who is a trade asset?
All right, Facci, they are missing a starting center from this roster.
They are.
I think if you get a starting center, your roster is pretty strong. I like what Geoff has done We talked about it, the last 9-10 games. I like what, we've seen from Isaiah Jackson at moments, but still, like, nothing's really stood out to me with him. And other than that, like, you've got guys that can give you solid backup minutes, but nothing substantial at the starting, 5 spot. So I think that's what you're really missing. And I think Halliburton is missing. That's the biggest one. So you bring him back, that's a big deal. Now, who's a trade asset? We've talked about this. We actually did a whole entire ranking of the roster based on what we think was most likely to be traded. I don't really know if Jarris Walker would be considered an asset at this point, but you still have all of your future picks. That's your best asset, all your future picks. Yeah. And I think that Benedict Mathurin is the biggest trade asset you have right now because of the uncertainty of will the Pacers go into the tax to keep Mathurin in the offseason.
A lot of what you just said is accurate. I mean, what's missing? Yeah, starting center. I think that is definitely the number one thing. Obviously, you put Halliburton in there, everything else goes. I mean, it's the engine. So those are the two things. And then, yeah, I'm right there with you. In terms of trade assets, like, come on. You're not trading a Pascal Siakam or Tyrese Halliburton no matter how bad this season goes. Not going to happen. Mathurin is the guy that we've said before. It's and said it and got a lot of hate early on, but it stands by it until the situation's resolved. He is your number one asset. He is. He's young. He's incredibly talented. He has not signed his contract yet. Like, there is a long list of why he would be at the top of the list. And I think that he has your star potential. He does. All-star potential. Like I do think that in his career, he could make a couple all-star games. But I feel like Indiana needs to come to that decision. Are you ready to break the bank? Or if not, this is the time to be able to move on. This is the crossroads. This is your girlfriend saying, hey, are we getting engaged or not? You got to make that decision. And I think that Indiana is getting to the end of that crossroads of facing that, that deadline. I don't know if that deadline's in February. I don't know if that deadline's in the summer. But that deadline is approaching by summer, the very latest. So, yeah, I would put him as their number one asset, because anyone else on there, like, there's just not going to be anywhere near as big of a return. Like, there's no, like, Jarris, or, like, obviously, look, Nembhard could get a solid return, but, like, they're not looking to move him. They're not. Like, there's no need to move him. He signed. There's that. So, like, yeah, I think Mathurin is the number one asset.
All right, let's keep it moving here, Facci. Ed Holinsky wants to know, in your estimation, is there any hope for this season, or has it already gone kaput?
No hope. Zero. Zilch. Nada. I don't know any other words to say no or not nunca. All right. So look, that's as many languages as I could possibly say.
I thought you said Luca. I was like, Luca.
No. We aren't mathematically eliminated at 5-18, but we would have to go on an absolute insane tear. And I just feel like that's not going to happen when Indiana is not expected to be buyers by any means. Like, I remember when Indiana made the trade with the Kings back in the day and sent Ron Artest to Sacramento, and they went from being an awful team to they made the 8th seed, and it was like a big deal for them, and they went on this crazy run, like, to be able to get to that point. Like, that's not going to happen. I just think that Indiana is more likely to be sellers if they're going to be making moves. So I think, unfortunately, from like a hope of, like, for the season, if you're hoping for wins, you're not going to get what you want. If you're hoping for, like, development, things like that, maybe bringing in some assets, yeah, there's more hope for that later on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think hope for development is a great way to put it. And yeah, I mean, in terms of, like, win-loss, it has gone kaput. It is. But, like, you can still find a positive in a negative situation. And that's kind of what I think the season's all about. It's like, okay, obviously a lot of injuries. We're all kind of like our backs against the wall. Like, I don't think anybody wants to see the Pacers go on like some like 15 out of 20 and win, all these games and then just be like a 10, 11 seed. Like, Kevin Pritchard is very aware of how dreadful the treadmill of mediocrity can be. This is a team that understands the value of getting into the lottery. So, yeah, there's going to be plenty of opportunity here, Facci, for this team to develop. And I think you can find hope in that, especially if you get a Cam Jones back healthy. Like, let him run some point. Let him play next to Nembhard. Let him learn while he has a chance to. That way, maybe come next year, he's a little bit more prepared when he comes back from this injury versus we're not going to play him. We're trying to win games so we can get the 10th seed and be in the play-in tournament. No, don't do that. That's silly. I don't think the Pacers will do that.
No, I don't think so. So, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, Ed. But next question. Pacer faithful.
Let's do this one together, Facci.
All right, let's do it. So
you read it out, and we'll do it together.
I'll read it out. Give your percentage for likelihood for each. The Pacers make a trade this season. What do you got?
All right, I'm going to say 60% they make a trade.
I'm just going to say 100%. It could be a small move, but I think it's just they could be sellers. I think at this point, like I said, you got Tony Bradley's expiring contract. Maybe it's not for much. Maybe you trade it for an additional second-round pick just to have another asset. Anything of the sort. I think that they'll make a trade to pick up some asset in terms of like just not losing an asset or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm going to leave some meat on the bones, but I have some questions to ask later, but we'll save it.
Sure.
So get to number 2.
Number 2, Siakam makes an All-Star or All-NBA team. In parentheses, he should.
Yeah, percentage that he makes an All-NBA or All-Star team, 15%.
15, yeah. I wanted to say 50, but I felt like it's less than that, so I'll just say like 33%. I just feel
33.
Like, yeah.
I said 43.
Yeah.
Pascal's number.
I guess so. I say 33 as in like he's got like a 1 of 3 chance. Like it's not like the odds are in his favor, but statistically and just like from watching him and everything that he does, like he is deserving of being an all-star. But like wins do matter. They do. We've seen it time and time again. And Indiana does not have many of those.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next one.
All right, next. Jarris is on the roster next year. So, look, things are starting to heat up in terms of the Jarris talk. What do you got?
Man, this is tough. This is the toughest one, I think. I'm gonna do what you just did and steal a play, out of your playbook. 33% that he's on the roster next year.
Yeah, honestly, that is exactly what I had because my common thing wanted to just say 50%, but I know that's such a you can't say that.
It's not a 50-50. I feel like it's more likely he's traded than not.
I agree. So, I know you said 33, not to just copy, even that's what I had. Like, I'll say 25%. I just think that
copy me. It's fine. We can copy.
All right, 33%. That's what I got. Test. I love a good 33% answer. And to me, it just feels like the less than half type of scenario.
I love a good 33% answer.
I do.
Who says that?
I'm that guy.
I love this guy.
Yep. That's what I'm sticking with.
It must be like the average percentage of the Wizards record or something.
Must be. You got me. Look, I just feel like in this scenario, look at this roster. When we talked about before about consolidation trades got to happen. A lot of the times it was you got to consolidate a trade to get some other guys out of there to get Jarris more time. Now it's like, you know what? Maybe he doesn't need as much time as we thought. If you do have like a healthy Obi and Aaron Nesmith on that roster. So I feel like now all of a sudden it finally does look like Jarris could be the odd man out. So yeah, 33% seems like it, but switching over. Do you want to read this one or you want me to read it?
Yeah, well, I'll switch it up. Over, under for each, Facci. So 37, Mathurin's 3-point percentage to end the season.
So I looked at it just for a reference point for everybody. He's at about 43% from 3 this year.
What has he shot in his career?
I will pull that up, but I can tell you that it has not been that. So let's see. I'm pulling it up. Let's see. So Benedict Mathurin for his career is a 35% 3-point shooter. That includes this year. So him shooting 42.9% from 3 to be exact is an outlier. It is awesome. I'm saying that he does shoot above 37%. I still think he finishes this year close to about 39. I'm going to say gun to my head, it's like 38.7. It's the high 38s, I'll say.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like you could say, Mathurin's going to shoot the ball a lot this year, so it's likely that this percentage could come down. But also, this is a contract year. This is a guy that's trying to get paid, laser focused, and he's not forcing bad shots. So I think that I'm with you. I think I'm going to lean over 37% by the end of the season. 39 is a good number. I'll just say 40. I'm just going to go solid 40. He's going to have a going into free agency. I'm a 40% 3-point shooter, guys. I'm new. I'm improved. Good. Watch me. So that to me is where I'm going to go with. Now let's go to the last one here. Pacer Faithful wants to know over under for Tyrese Halliburton's points per game in the 2026-2027 season. 17 points per game. Over or under?
I do honestly think 17's like spot on. I really do. I don't think we're gonna see this like Tyrese coming out there, Tyrese the assassin, like 20 plus points per game. So I'm just gonna say slightly over. I'll be annoying and I'll say like 17.2. Like I think it's just gonna be like just over 17, and for that, like I'd be thrilled with that if Tyrese is giving us 17 and 10, 17 and 11 coming off an Achilles tear. Like, yeah, sign me up for that.
It almost sounds like you're saying $1, Bob, on The Price is Right here. So
yeah, just a little over,
Yeah, so I'll say 17.1. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I just got to make sure I'm not over. So anyway, no, I honestly think 17 points per game. His average is above that, so I think he's going to get over that. I think he might start out slow, but he'll get up to he'll have a month or two where he's averaging around 20 plus, and I think he'll get that number up closer to 18, 19. I will say young Simba, when I had him on last Friday, like he felt like if the Pacers had like a legit lob threat as a center, that is like better than like an Isaiah Jackson, like that's an actual center, that it could really open up Tyrese's offensive game quite a bit, and that does intrigue me a little bit. So that's why I think this could potentially be closer to 20 points per game. But you do have to realize like they're going to ease him into it, but he's going to be around 16 months, right? When he starts the season, It usually takes 18 months, right, for guys to feel like 100%. So he should be relatively close come the regular season to being fully healthy. So we might see like a month or so of rust, but I think the other 4 months of Pacers basketball, you're going to see much, much better basketball from Tyrese Haliburton.
Hey, sign me up for it. Love to be wrong, but at the same point, if the man's giving us 17 a game coming off an Achilles tear, I know his passing isn't going to have gone anywhere. So I think we're going to be pretty good. So I'm excited for that. What do you got for the next question?
Yeah, CF at CFalcon31 wants to know, I still believe this team needs a pure shooter on the roster. I would agree. Is there a name out there you think would be a good addition? I personally like someone that Facci brought up in a trade idea not too long ago, Corey Kispert.
You guys were roasting me like a pig when I brought him up. I was like, Corey Kispert? Oh, what? And it's like, that man could shoot. He's a shooter. He's a pure shooter. So when I saw CF bring him up, I was like, thank you. But look, here's what I'll say. There's Corey Kispert. He is making around like $13 million per year for the next few years. So you're like, all right, look, that's not a bad contract in the NBA by any means. But there's guys like Gary Trent Jr. and Landry Shamet that make pennies. Like Gary Trent Jr. out here signing like basically like back-to-back minimum contracts. And we saw Gary Trent drop like 40 against the Pacers in the playoffs. Like he had some really big games. Landry Shamet can defend. He can shoot threes. Like those guys, they're out there from time to time. Garrison Matthews was a guy that you hope to be able to contribute a little bit more, but had been a pure shooter. But just you could see that there's the talent level is just below those guys. Luke Kennard right now is on a 1-year, $11 million deal. He is a pure shooter. He would not cost much at all, especially if you just want to get him as a free agent or anything of the sort. So, like, yeah, there are guys out there before you have to trade for like a Corey Kispert and take on, say $50 million on the contract over the next like 4 years. So I do think that Indiana does need more of a shooter. That's something that they were lacking on this roster. And then also, there is the Haliburton effect, though. You take Haliburton off this roster, everybody's percentages plummeted for the most part. Obviously, Mathurin, we talked about, went up. But like guys like Nesmith and Jarris Walker, like their 3-point percentages just like fell off of a cliff. Obi obviously hasn't played too much this year. So I do think a healthy Haliburton could improve a lot. But even with Haliburton coming back, they will need another shooter, I would say.
Yeah, like guys that are out there, it's going to be tough. But like, could they go after a Grayson Allen who's shooting like lights out this year, Facci? Like 42.2% on 8.5 attempts from three. Like that's incredible. I just think like those are the type of players you would like to target. DiVincenzo's kind of in that same ballpark. He's averaging 8 threes a game, shooting 39.3%. So you just want to find guys that have a high volume that also shoot at a high clip. Like I was always a big Dylan Brooks fan for that reason, because his numbers have been pretty good. But this year, Facci, he's shooting just 31% from three. So it's like not the greatest, but Royce O'Neal shooting 40.8% from three. Devin Vassell's at 40.1. Could he be available? Colin Gillespie's having a great year with Phoenix.
He really is. And that's someone that was just hanging around looking for an opportunity a year ago. So
yeah,
some of those guys are out there. And then some of them, like you mentioned with Grayson Allen, you're going to have to be paying a little bit more, like somewhere in that like $15-16 million range. I think he's at anywhere between like 15 to 18. So it's like, okay, you could still justify that, but there were some other shooters that we named that are very cheap players that can deliver what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Sam Hauser, obviously, like he's a Boston guy, but like he's only shooting 36.4% this year. But a guy that was another cheap one, Tim Hardaway Jr., he's shooting 42.5% for the Nuggets this year. Wow. So it's like there's guys out there that you can go out there and target. And, Garrison Matthews is kind of like a smaller version of them trying to go out there and do that. Yes. But, a name that I might keep an eye on too, Facci, and I'm just curious your thoughts, Max Christie with the Dallas Mavericks.
Max Christie shooting the ball well.
46.6%.
Yeah, I know.
On 5.3 attempts.
That was a good pickup last year for them. So I thought that was kind of like a little bit of the underrated throw-in of the Luka trade that people forget about. Obviously, because Luka's name is just like a zillion times bigger than there's AD, and Max Christie was in that deal. He was. Yeah. Really good three-point shooter that at Dallas, this is the last draft pick they own. They're in trouble. So I'm sure he could be had, and I'm not saying that you're offering up a first or anything of the sort, but I just feel like it's going to be selling season for Dallas pretty soon.
It will be, and I would be like, maybe if you're trying to trade for Daniel Gafford, like as a center, could you get Max Christie in a deal? That's just how I think as a fan, because it's like, I get it. Like Max Christie is, a part of the Luka trade, but also like that Luka trade has really bit you in the butt, and it got your GM fired like right after. Anthony Davis is a hot mess. Like, I don't know. Like it's just one of those things where it's like when you see teams that are desperate, kind of like the Mavericks, to kind of recoup what they just messed up on, that's when you pounce and make those kind of deals. Now, last one here, Facci, you want to ask the question?
All right, last one. Jesse Hobbs 6 said, will the Pacers make a trade this season?
Well, we kind of answered this already in our percentages. So Facci thinks yes, and I think I would lean slightly yes. So it just kind of feels like something's going to happen with this group. And I think Facci brought up a great point. They could be sellers at the deadline, but like, who is buying what the Pacers are selling at this point? Like, who are they coming after? Like, if it's not Mathurin, I can't imagine them wanting Shepherd or Jarris. Are they wanting Huff? Do you sell high on Huff, Facci?
That would be a little bit rough. It'd be rough to sell Huff at this point. So,
I'm just saying. But that's a good point. This is like the time to trade him. Like, he's at an all-time high contract.
It is, but like,
really good.
Obviously, you can't just trade him straight up. So it's like, is it
a package deal?
Yeah, if it was like, is Huff enough? Geez, everything he just rhymes with everything. He really does. Like, just like stumbling
it's tough.
into
it's rough. It's tough.
Yep. If you put J Huff with like a Jarris Walker, is that really like moving the needle that much to be like, all right, you know what? Hey, look at this. We got the blocks leader plus a young, former 8th overall pick who's, just needs a change of scenery. Like, is that enough to really like be like, all right, this is going to be that much more of a return? So I think that at this point, if it's not Mathurin, it's, hey, you got Jarris. Maybe it's Jarris and something else. They're not going to trade their draft pick. I don't see them trading any future draft picks. So Indiana's in a tough spot. I think it'll be more smaller trades. Picking up, Indiana has done it before. Picking up a second-round pick here, picking up some additional assets over there, like anything they've traded for smaller players that they're giving opportunities to for the rest of the season. Like, remember when they traded for Jordan Nwora, and all of a sudden the second half of the season he got some run, and he looked pretty decent for a little bit. So there might be some of those type of moves where they take a flyer on someone for at least half a season and see if it makes sense for the following.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because you think about like a JRE or a Tony Bradley on this roster, and a team's like trying to get under the tax for whatever reason. You trade Tony Bradley before his deal becomes guaranteed, or JRE before their deal becomes guaranteed. You take back basically another minimum salary that is fully guaranteed. Then that team has the ability to waive Tony Bradley. Now, there might be a weird situation where their contract does become guaranteed if they're traded. I don't know if that clause is in these deals, but like if it's not, then you could save someone the money, because it's kind of like last year, the Pacers traded James Wiseman to the Raptors.
Yep.
With a second round pick, I think, to just basically have them eat the money, and then you don't have to have that on your books and you get under the tax and all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be some number crunching moves that the Pacers always make. And even if they just want to go and try acquire another second, could they be like a facilitator in a trade? I think they could be.
I think they could, and I think they would. I think they just love an additional asset, and you just never know when it'll come in handy. I mean, we talked about it about an episode or so ago when they got Obi Toppin. It was, trading numerous second round picks, things like that. Sometimes you eventually strap a second round pick to unload someone. Like, they might want a second round pick just to one day have to attach a second round pick, just to anything of the sort is on the table. But I don't see Indiana having an estate sale where all of a sudden they're looking to move like an Aaron Nesmith or anything like that. I don't think they'd even move Obi Toppin just to move him. I think it would have to really be a deal where they were struggling to come up with the salary, and somehow Obi was able to go. And even if that happens, that would have to be a much bigger deal. So I don't see them making a big splash, but I do think they will make smaller moves if it makes sense to recoup an asset here or there, or anything of that sort.
Absolutely, Facci. Well, that's going to do it for part 1 of the mailbag today. So thank you all so much for tuning in, sending in your questions. And most of those questions, I believe, were from Twitter. So we will have more from Twitter coming up on our next one. And then our last one is when we're going to get to about 7, I think, YouTube questions. So if some of those questions didn't trickle in a little bit later, I apologize. We will not get to all of those questions. But there was about 7 around 3 o'clock when I sent all this over to Facci to do some homework on Sunday. So we're going to get to those later in the week, but thank you all so much for tuning in. Facci, any final words before we sign off?
Nope. Hey, always appreciate you guys sending in questions. We had some good ones over here. Got us thinking a little bit, and excited to read the rest of this mail.
Yeah, we are. So we will do that on tomorrow's episode of Setting the Pace. Hope you guys enjoy that. But with that being said, Facci, if you're enjoying the Pacers not playing until Friday against the Philadelphia 76ers and taking about 3 days off here with no games, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers!